The Little Mermaid isn't just about love. Ariel and Eric's relationship is really used to serve several broader messages. That's what this scene is for. This scene isn't in the animation, but it's a great addition because it clarifies Ariel and Eric's compatibility. But this scene, while it's very cute, has one major problem. It has very little impact to the rest of the story, and it really does get so close. There's so much potential with it. But a good love story isn't just cute moments and chemistry. It also has to tell a good story. How they handled this one scene is why this love story retelling isn't as good as it could be. To explain what I mean, I'm going to break down the themes of The Little Mermaid through the characterization of Ariel and Eric in this remake. We'll see how much depth this scene adds to their love story, how little it pays off in the end, and what could have happened instead. I did enjoy this movie despite what it may sound like, and I will go over what I liked about it at the end, but The Little Mermaid was my favorite princess movie growing up, so I'm holding it to very high standards. Let's get into it. Like I mentioned, The Little Mermaid isn't just about forbidden love. It's also about embracing the unknown, self-discovery, and seeing opportunity in differences. These themes are anchored by Ariel and Eric's characters and their relationship. So first, let's look at how these are reflected in Ariel. Ariel is a curious, brave, and defiant mermaid. She's fascinated by humans, but her father, King Triton, believes them to be evil since they led to the death of her mother. Ariel is forbidden to break the ocean's surface, so resorts to collecting human items from shipwrecks. By part of your world, our first two themes are introduced: Ariel's identity conflicts and Triton's harsh judgments of a world he doesn't understand. These two concepts are interlinked. Ariel longs to be human, but is trapped because she's a mermaid and because her father is overprotective. When Ariel saves Eric, who is a human, she falls for him, and her desire to become human intensifies. In the remake, it's Ariel's siren song that saves Eric's life, and this is an important detail that we will touch on later in this video. In the animation, she just saves him from drowning. Ursula, the sea witch, takes advantage of this situation. She makes Ariel human in exchange for her voice. If Ariel can secure a true love's kiss in 3 days, she can remain human, and if not, she belongs to Ursula. Ursula's spell in this version ensures Ariel will forget she needs to kiss Eric, and this is a way for their relationship to develop more naturally than in the animation. Eric's character mirrors Ariel in several ways and is more complex than his animated counterparts. After a shipwreck killed his parents, Eric was adopted by the king and queen of Caribbean islands. While Eric is grateful for this, he feels trapped on a small island, and since he's adopted, he doesn't feel like he belongs. Eric is drawn to adventure, exploring uncharted waters and building the kingdom through trade, which is something the kingdom has avoided in recent years. Humans, including the queen, believe in evil sea gods and dangerous sirens. Eric disregards these myths, but the queen is afraid his voyages will lead him to perish at sea, so forbids him from exploring, especially after he almost dies in a shipwreck. But Eric is determined to find the mysterious voice who saved him. Eric parallels Ariel because they both want to explore unknown worlds but are trapped by their parents' fear and overprotectiveness. And humans and merpeople distrust each other because they're afraid of what they don't know. Both Eric and Ariel rebel against their community's beliefs. Eric meets Ariel when she's taken in by the castle, but since she can't speak, he figures she isn't the one he's looking for, but still welcomes her warmly. Now we get to this scene. This is Eric and Ariel's first real bonding moment together, and it merges the main themes together. In case you need a refresher, I'll summarize this scene very quickly. Ariel stumbles upon Eric's study, and just like her cave, he collects things too, except they're from his voyages and not shipwrecks. She's fascinated and eager to experience human-made inventions. She finds a mermaid figurine and then is discovered by Eric, who gives it to her. He's surprised to see her there because no one usually goes in this room except for him, and this emphasizes how little others understand his interests. Very similar to how Ariel kept her interests hidden from those who wouldn't understand. Ariel cracks a rock to reveal hidden geodes and shows Eric how to use a shell as a horn. He teaches her about neighboring lands and the island geography. It's revealed that Eric wants to discover a place no one has seen before. They're enjoying each other's company and loving how they're sharing and learning from one another. Eric becomes so excited that he asks for a carriage to show her the island, forgetting that all carriages were supposed to be used to find the mysterious girl. But Grimsby manages manages to spare one carriage because he's sensing the vibes, and we launch into even more bonding, exploring, and sharing, which is very similar to the montage we get in the animation. First, let's look at why this scene is really great to add for the story, especially for a remake that is reimagining a classic. For one, this scene shows us Ariel and Eric's unique ability to understand one another through the similarities they share. They both love adventure, collecting, and are both curious. Visually, Eric's study resembles Ariel's trove with multiple levels and a skylight for exploring an above world, which in his case is space. Even though Ariel can't speak, Eric isn't fazed by this difference. They still manage to teach each other new things and relate to one another. Adding this scene to the montage we already get in the animation gives their relationship more space to develop naturally. We can better understand why these characters fall for each other. We can see how Eric would fall for her and how his dilemma between the reality and fantasy girl evolves. And since Ariel isn't focused on just getting a kiss from him, they get to focus on each other. We do get some cute moments in the animation as well, but it's nice to get a little bit more of it in the remake. As well, Eric gifting Ariel the mermaid figurine is a super cute moment and a symbolic one. The figurine represents Ariel's homeland. Plus, it lets us know Eric's belief that mermaids don't lure sailors to their death, and this shows that he's practical and isn't afraid or cynical. This scene also highlights what both worlds can learn from each other and how they can work together to be better. And this contrasts their parents who think the other world is bad. So this scene is great because it establishes the beginning of two worlds merging, and it also creates a foundation for love. I really think this is the best scene in this remake because it adds complexity that makes sense to add. And this is really rare for new scenes in the remakes because often they make changes that aren't that useful and don't really add to the characters. I really value creative, new reimagining in these remakes, so that's why this scene really stands out to me. But I told you it all goes wrong, and it does. So let me tell you why. This scene introduces several new things to the story. 1, the mermaid figurine. 2, how mermaids and humans can learn from and help one another. 3, Ariel and Eric's compatibility. And 4, Eric's desire to explore uncharted waters. Most of these things do not have the depth that they should. And also, as I go through these, I would love to know what you think about them. First, the mermaid figurine should have more significance and could have been used to deepen Ariel's identity conflict. While Eric is more complex in this version, we don't get the same treatment with Ariel. And even though Ariel is already a dynamic character, I do think that there is room to deepen her story in the remake. So let me explain how we could have gone about that and why it would make for a better love story and overall story. The mermaid that she finds is symbolic of Ariel's true identity, and it's a gift from Eric. It connects her to the ocean and to land. In the animated version, Ariel has reservations about Ursula's deal, but as soon as she's human, she's like, this was the right decision, I do not regret anything, and she never looks back. And I think Hallie's Ariel had the opportunity to be more realistic. Perhaps seeing this mermaid reminds Ariel of her family, because we spend so much of this movie under the sea and we introduce her family. Perhaps she misses her sisters. After all, why introduce them by name if they don't have much significance to the story? Maybe she wonders if her father is worried because she left without explanation. Maybe she starts to question if this really is what she wants, because we do see her struggle when she first sees Eric and is helpless to express her feelings. They could have shown this by simply having her gaze into the ocean or remembering a happy family memory, whether it's a quick flashback or a voiceover from her sisters. And I think that this is relevant to the love story because it's the human things that Eric shows her and her relationship with Eric, who is obviously a human, that ends up validating her decision. And I think having her waver just the slightest bits could have added an interesting new dimension to Ariel. And while we're on the topic of Ariel's family and developing her conflict, I also want to touch on this scene for a second, and I swear this relates to my point, I promise. Ariel breaking the surface is different in the remake than it is in the animation. In the animation, Ariel would break the surface and learn about humans from Scuttle. In the remake, Ariel never surfaces until this moment. And I actually really like this change because it adds a lot of drama and makes the separation between worlds more extreme. But I do think they should have built this tension more, and it would have made Ariel's decision more impactful. They could have done this by emphasizing her desperation to break the surface and her desire to stay loyal to her father's wishes, because since she isn't used to surfacing in this version, she's slightly more obedient. And I think that Halle plays Ariel in a bit more of a sweeter and gentler way. Like, I think throughout we should see Ariel almost break the surface several times to build this tension. Then after all of this back and forth, we finally get this beautiful visual so that this moment is super fulfilling, because this is her breaking free and choosing her own destiny. But instead, there's a lot of emptiness between the song and the moment that she swims up, and it's such a pivotal moment that it just needs more emphasis surrounding it. And I think this conflict between humanity and family should also be apparent when she's manipulated by Ursula. Ariel initially refuses Ursula's offer, but she's overcome by her temptation for land and love, and because Ursula is manipulating her. This happens in the animation too, but Ariel also questions the consequences. She says that she won't see her family again and won't be able to voice her feelings, and then Ursula wrongfully downplays her concerns. I think Ariel could have more emotional depth if she thought of her family and if she weighed what she'll lose. Expanding these two earlier scenes would bring up these emotions when she sees the mermaid. There is one time we do see her regret, which is when she loses Eric to Vanessa and drops the figurine in the ocean. I loved the song she sings here, but it's less emotional when you realize she's only grieving her loss of love and not also her loss of humanity. This moment of the mermaid returning to the sea would be symbolic of Ariel accepting her fate, but Ariel doesn't remember that she needs a kiss from Eric to remain human. She doesn't realize that becoming a mermaid again is her fate. This is because of Ursula's new memory loss spell, and I go back and forth on whether this change was necessary. On one hand, it gives Ariel the freedom to develop an authentic relationship rather than focusing on just getting a kiss. On the other, animated Ariel builds a genuine connection with Eric anyway, and only focuses on the kiss during the kiss the girl scene. Knowing that she needs this kiss is how she can claim her humanity. In the live action, Ariel's humanity is left in Sebastian's hands. Regardless of the memory loss or not, Ariel choosing to live life on her own terms should feel risky. But then, as the story progresses, we learn that this is a good decision because it leads to her learning, being herself, and finding love. And then, in the end, I really think she should have kept her mermaid to remember her family and where she came from. And plus, because it was the first thing that Eric gives her, and I would think that this would be sentimental to her. I thought this was going to be the start of her new collection of treasures on land, but instead she gives it to Scuttle and Sebastian and Flounder to remember her by. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I just felt like it didn't make sense for her to give away something so meaningful, because she's going to see them for the next coral moon. She's gonna see them again, but anyway. I also think that Eric should have found her figurine on the beach rather than her dress, because this figurine, like I said, it's the first thing that he gives to her, so it's a lot more meaningful than the dress that she wears. And then perhaps when they reunite, he gives the mermaid back to her and has a moment of, my mom was right, sea gods do exist, but they're not evil, and they can live in harmony together. I just feel like that would have been more cute. The second thing about this scene is that Eric and Ariel learning from one another should have aided the plot somehow. Ariel teaches Eric about rocks and the shell, and Eric teaches Ariel about land and travel. Since there is so much misplaced animosity between humans and merpeople, Eric and Ariel are great representations that the two species can work together and don't have to fear one another. In fact, they're stronger together. This could have come to a head when fighting Ursula. Maybe Eric and Ariel lead the battle together by joining the humans and merpeople, because after all, Ursula is quite massive for two people to take down. For example, we see Triton use a shell to call a meeting of mermaids in the beginning. Eric could have used a shell to call other mermaids for help, maybe so they can distract Ursula while him and Ariel figure out a plan. And perhaps the humans are in the ocean with their ships to try to rescue the prince, and maybe we use one of their ships to ram into Ursula rather than an old one from a shipwreck. Then we would be using things from the land and sea world to bring down a common evil. I also do think that Eric still should have been the one to end Ursula, and I would love to know your thoughts on this. I think if it's Eric, it really just makes for a better story. For one, it complements the beginning where Ariel saves Eric first. And in this remake, Eric and Ariel parallel each other so much more, so it would make sense for this action to also be another parallel. The second thing is that Eric saving Ariel in the end doesn't mean that Ariel is incapable of saving herself or can't fight battles. In fact, we know she's capable because her cleverness defeats the shark in the beginning, and she gets her own voice back from Vanessa. Eric defeating Ursula is about a human saving a mermaid. In the animation, Eric's action changes Triton's mind about humans. Triton realizes that Ariel was right. Not all humans are bad. One just saved his daughter. This is one of the reasons he transforms Ariel himself so that she can be with Eric. In the live action, Triton transforms her only because she's sad, not because she's sad and he trusts humans. Since there isn't anything that would make Triton change his mind about humans, the joining of the merpeople and humans doesn't seem as genuine. In addition, much like Triton, the queen of the island still believes the sea and land worlds were never meant to be together after Ursula's defeat. But when Eric and Ariel do reunite, there could have been a small scene with Ariel or Eric explaining to Eric's mom that when Eric was in that shipwreck, it was her siren song, her mermaid gifts, that saved his life. If she wasn't a mermaid, he wouldn't be here. And then the queen would realize that mermaids aren't evil. And it would have made sense that Ariel has a siren song, which is a gift specific to mermaids, rather than just a pretty voice, because otherwise it's a less useful change. As it stands right now, it was just Eric and Ariel saving each other from Ursula. So we need a reason why all humans and merpeople are chill with each other in the end. At the very least, we could have shown how the merfolk are going to help salvage lost items from past shipwrecks, and the humans are going to try to protect the coral reefs. Because the sisters were mad at the humans for destroying their habitat, so I would have loved if that had come back around. And the third thing about this scene is how it emphasizes Eric and Ariel's compatibility. In the animation, Eric is cute and has likable qualities, and honestly, I love animation Eric. I still think he has a great personality, but here they have a deeper connection. So I really wished that Eric and Ariel had a conversation at the end. Ariel, as enthusiastic as she is about humans and love, should be gushing about the entire experience and all of her feelings. I feel like they both should have been super hard to contain. Like Eric would have been like, oh, so that's how you knew about the rock, and you have to tell me about all your mer people things. And Ariel would have been like, you have to tell me more about human things and all of the places you've been to. This movie is all about their passion for the unknown and how they're interested in it rather than afraid. And when they finally get to talk to one another, I just feel like that's the first thing they would talk about. And it would have been so cute because in the animation as well, we cut to them reuniting and then to their wedding. So I think that would have been a really great addition to have in the remake. Even if they mentioned like how they both always felt out of place, but they feel so content when they're by each other's side. Maybe it's Ariel who makes Eric feel like he can rule the kingdom even though he wasn't born for it. And maybe Eric secures Ariel's choice that she was meant to be human. I guess we can infer those things, but it's just something in the end. Something. I wanted them to talk about something. And I've said it before and I'll say it again and I will continue to say it. Hallie needed her sparkle dress moment. I'm so sad we did not get an Ariel dripping in diamonds coming out of the ocean, embraced by her lover. I don't know what about that was like, no, we should absolutely cut this scene. I don't know if you've seen Olivia Rodrigo's 2022 Met Gala look, but I was really hoping for something like that. But thank God Hallie resuscitated me with her red carpet looks. I just wish one of them was in the movie. The last new thing that this scene added was Eric's desire to explore. And this is the one thing that actually does come full circle, because in the end, Eric and Ariel don't get married, they have a send-off party for an expedition. And you know what? I thought this was really cute because they're both free spirits and so excited to explore new worlds that it does make sense that they're not settling down right away. So Ariel gets to be human and Eric gets to explore uncharted waters, and this was well done. I actually did enjoy this movie, so I want to tell you my top 5 favorite things about this movie because this video has been very critical. I loved Hallie's singing and all of her singing scenes. I think that her singing scenes really showed her emotional range the best, and I think she did so much justice to all of these songs, which is really hard to do. Anytime she sang in the movie, movie. I was completely invested. I loved Hallie and Jonah's chemistry. I think they were super cute together. I loved Melissa McCarthy as Ursula. I've heard some varying opinions about that, but I thought she was great. I thought she had a lot of fun with the character. I did like some of the visuals in this movie, and I do say that lightly because it's a little bit of a hit or miss for me. I do still think that some of this does look like a Disney theme park, which if you've seen my Cinderella video, you kind of know what that means. And I still don't love how the underwater looks, which if you've seen my color video, you'll also understand why. But that being said, I think that the few dresses that we get with Ariel are super cute. I loved Ariel's tail. Okay, this was stunning. I think they did such a good job on this design. I loved the beachy castle. I loved how nautical and authentic Eric's study looked. And I loved the Caribbean setting. I thought that was so fun because the Little Mermaid has always had like this Caribbean flair with Sebastian and the music. And I loved Vanessa. Oh my gosh, I thought she was so good in this movie. I loved whoever played her. I would love to know your thoughts. Did you like the changes in this movie? Subscribe for more analysis. I think my next video is not going to be on Disney. I hope you have a cute, lovely, cozy night. Thank you so much for watching.